Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Matt with the Low Cash Homestead. And tonight, I'm sorry it's a little bit dark, but we're in my garage. Tonight, we're shucking some popcorn and talking to you guys a little bit. I know it's late, but I do these usually in the evening. Let's talk a little bit about the popcorn. So I have some videos that I put up of me planting popcorn. And this one's not gonna be very good. Nope. Okay, so that one is no good. So I have two buckets here. One is a Home Depot bucket. This is actually an aquaponics bucket I used a lot, but it's got a bunch of holes drilled in it. And then I have another bucket. And you guys have seen my videos where I say don't buy buckets. Go pick them up at Wally World for $1 and you get an icing bucket. I got a bunch of these. So I got a bucket there. So one bucket is for the stuff that I'm calling out, which will become chicken feed. And the other bucket is for the stuff that I'm keeping. Now I have three varieties of popcorn. This variety right here, this is our candy cane popcorn. I sell this as a microgreen, but I decided to grow it out this year. And I was interested in what it was going to be like. So this has pretty full. Now, yeah, does it have some bad spots on there? Yes. What you know what I do? I break that off. I just break that off and I chuck it in the bucket of culls, which will end up being chicken feed. Now, when you do popcorn has to have a low moisture content. So I've got silk all over. Oh my goodness. I think I just killed my stream. Let's Yep, I did. There we go. Sorry about that. I have, let me slide the Chromebook back a little bit. I've got silks all over the place as I've been pulling this popcorn apart. So you take a look at this, and I broke the top off of it. This is my candy cane popcorn. I grow this as a microgreen. It's pretty popular. I offer it in limited runs because as a microgreen, it's very, very finicky. As a cob of popcorn, well, we're going to find out. This is my first year growing this out. But moisture content of popcorn has to be extremely low. And I found this out from testing it and exploding a Pyrex bowl because I just could not get the popcorn to pop. And I just kept microwaving it, trying to figure it out. And apparently I needed to do more research and more reading on how you do this. So I've got some potato bags and some burlap bags, and we're going to put the kernels in there, or the cobs in there. And I left this stuff on the plant, basically, and let the plant kind of die. And then we went out and plucked. This is our second harvest of popcorn. The first harvest of popcorn, somebody called me, I think one of my kids or something, and I ended up running off to go help them, and then it started raining, and that all got wasted. So this is going to go in a keep bucket. So basically, what I'm doing is and I don't have any machinery for this, and some of these are going to be pretty, and some of them probably aren't going to be pretty. And one of the things is that I did not grow any of my popcorn. That was all in the secondary garden, and I didn't put any irrigation or any drip tape in that secondary garden. And some of the plants at the opposite end, like the popcorn and some other things, they suffered a little bit. Okay, so we got a bad spot there. We're going to chuck that in our culls bucket. And we didn't get a whole lot of kernel development on this ear here. You can see, I'll show it to you. You can see that we didn't get a whole lot of kernel development. I'm going to keep this kernel anyway. No, I'm not, because it's got a corn bug in it. So that's going to go in a cull bucket, and that's going to be fed to the chickens. I planted three varieties: the candy cane popcorn, Japanese hulless, and strawberry popcorn. Strawberry popcorn did pretty much nothing. The one I'm unwrapping now, I believe is the Japanese hull-less. The Japanese hull-less is a white kernel. Nope, it's not. It's candy cane popcorn. Okay, but that is also not very good, so we're going to chuck that up. Some of them, not all of them, are going to look like this. I wish all of them did look like this, because that is a fine ear of popcorn. But not all of them are going to look like that. And I have about 10 gallons, 2 of these 5-gallon buckets to do. Now, you're looking at this one, you can see that it's got some decent kernel development, but it's kind of crappy. So we're going to go ahead and snap that off, throw that in there before we unpeel the rest of it. And, well, the top had decent kernel development, but the bottom didn't have much. We got a little bit. Some of the kernels are actually flying right off. But you can see here that these kernels here didn't develop where these kernels here did. So, you know, we got a few. It's still pretty, it's dry, but it's still kind of hard to pop off the cob. So those are not quite done. So what we're going to do is, that one looks like it's got a few other problems. We're going to chuck that in our coal bucket. So for those of you watching, you have any questions, let's talk about some of the things that we've been doing around here. The high tunnel build, that has bad tip development. I can see it already as I go to unpeel it. We have been focusing a lot on the construction of our high tunnel. One, I have a timeline to have that done. And 2, temperatures are starting to drop a little bit. Okay, so on this one, go ahead and pull that out. You can see we got, you know, moderate kernel development, but we're going to basically snap this whole top off and call that out. And we got enough on this one that I will keep the cob. And all my biomaterial, all the husk and everything like that, we will turn back into the garden. So here we got another one, and we're just pulling. I don't have any machinery to do this. You know, I've been doing this all by hand. And this one actually looks like it's filled out pretty well, minus this part here, which we're going to go ahead and call that off. So I'm going to put all this stuff back into the gardens. And usually what I do is I throw it on top and then I turn it under, and then I'm going to run the, and in this case, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the birds across it first. Okay, so this one is looking decent. Of course, the tip is not great, but let's look down the rest of the cob. So the tip isn't that good, okay? And for your heirloom stuff, I've had that happen, which is regular corn, but the kernel development through the cob is not too bad. So we're going to keep this one. We're going to snap that off and call that, because I would feed that to my birds. So we've been focusing a lot on getting our high tunnel done, and we're at a point where everything goes well. Tomorrow I should have some help, and we're going to stretch our first run of plastic. Okay, this one's about half developed. You see some of it's like right in here. Those kernels aren't developed, but then there's developed kernels through it. So we're going to snap that top off, because again, the tip development on these wasn't fantastic. But also, this was the secondary garden was more a qualifying garden, meaning that I needed to get it planted and have stuff growing in there to be able to get our NRCS funding after we get this high tunnel up for the next high tunnel. Okay, so let's look at this one. Aside from the tip, we got a couple bad spots right here. Kernel development's really good, but then we've got some mold growing on the back. So I'm going to just snap that whole section off. So then there, we're going to keep the bottom of the cob as part of our food. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them up in the chat. And maybe invite your friends to come join us as well. So that's about half a cob there of decently developed popcorn. we've been working a lot on our high tunnel. Today, one of the things that we did is we got all of the rest of our snap channels put in, which is the wiggle channels where you put your wiggle wires to hold your plastics down and things like that. And we got the rest of that done and screwed up onto the end rafters. And then we got two cherry trees that I bought. We got those planted. Here's another one. Okay, so we got really good development on that side, but not nearly as much here, but that's worth keeping. Usually when I call them out, I'm not calling them out for kernel development. I'm calling them out for like the quality of the ear. So if the ear has got problems, and I've had a few, I opened up and they had cornworms in them, chuck that over to the side. This one's one of our candy cane popcorns here, and it's looking like so far that it did pretty well. There we go. Yeah, there's another good one right here. Okay, so this is our candy cane popcorn. It's got that yellow, nice yellow, dark yellow kernel development to it. They're not quite dried out. So we'll have to, like I said, I've got some burlap bags that we're going to put all that stuff in, and then we'll hang it out in a nice place to dry, and then we can start, plucking samples from it. So, and testing until we know the popcorn is dry. So I can feel this one here. You can feel it through the husk that there's no tip development, and it's not wanting to snap. So that may not be a good sign. We're going to peel it open and see kind of where we are on this one. Yep. Now, some of the kernels are just popping right off, so that's a good sign that the cob is dry, but just not a whole lot of kernels in this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just call that one for the chickens there. And, okay, so high tunnel. That's been our primary focus, getting the high tunnel up. We should be stretching plastic hopefully tomorrow over the main section, and I'm hoping we can do that tomorrow. I'll have some help. That's a multi-person job. So this one we snapped the top off, but the overall ear development really good. Now, one of the things I've decided is that I am not going to plant pretty much any kind of corn again without drip tape. If I can't automate the irrigation like I did in the primary gardens, and I have videos up on the Low Cash Homestead about that, it may not be worth it. So, I mean, I've got a lot of drip tape, but I also just ordered another 35 or 40 trees to rebuild some of the perimeter of our property that was damaged when our new septic system was put in. So I'll probably use a good probably 300-400 feet of drip tape on that. And it comes in a 1,000-foot roll, and I've been using it for the last couple of years. So I don't really know exactly how much I have left. It's not that expensive. It's like 6 cents a foot or something if you get it from Tech Supply or Farm Tech, which is where I get a lot of that kind of irrigation stuff from, is Tech Supply and Farm Tech. So I will drip tape from now on, whether it's popcorn, sweet corn, dent corn, Peruvian, giant Peruvian, whatever it is that I decide to grow, I'll be putting it on drip tape. So this year has pretty good kernel development, except down here. So there was some pollination that didn't happen on this, but that's an ear worth keeping. And I'm beginning to realize just how long it's going to take for me to manually, by hand, shuck all this popcorn. I'm about halfway through the first bucket. So this is a little smaller ear. Of course, we got some tip damage there. but the rest of it is pulling out to be, well, I thought it was. See, we got a little bit of mold on that one. That's going to go right to the chickens. I'm not going to mess with that at all. I got this big one sitting here on the table. It feels, through the husk, it feels like it might not be kerneled out real well. But we're going to find out, and it's not. And it is just really actually horrible. So I'm not even going to bother peeling that one the rest of the way. Some of these little ones, this is the Japanese hulless, I believe. The Japanese hulless is white. Nope. It's not. Okay, so there we go. But smaller, not fully developed kernels on this. But we're going to dry it out and see how well it does. So I'm beginning to realize that harvesting the corn is nothing. You just grab it and rip it off. Okay. But that's how I do it anyway. But shucking it all, well, I think that's going to be a pain. Well, I mean, it's proving to be a pain, but no different, not any more of a pain than it would be if you were shucking sweet corn or anything. This is a really nice one. This is the candy cane popcorn. And you can see it's, yes, I'm dropping silks everywhere. But good ear development, good tip development, good kernel development. That's a keeper, definitely. Like I said, I've got about 10 gallons. Oh, I'm down about 7 gallons or so on this popcorn. Oh, this one is looking like it's going to be decent too. Well, part of it is and part of it's not. I'm going to snap that off. That's going to go to the birds. And then, so we got partial development on this ear and a little bit better development on that side, if you can see that. But we're going to keep it. Yeah, I went some of the kernels and it just kind of popped off. And, okay, this one feels like it's pretty underdeveloped. Let's take a look. And it is. And in fact, it's really no good at all. Yeah. Okay, so that's no good. We're going to just chuck that aside. It'll go in our call bucket. The thing I've noticed is you can feel a lot of these through the husk. Might have said that already, but yeah. Okay, so this one is really, really bad tip fill on this one. We do have some kernels. Very, very poor pollination on these. On this one, you can see just how many of the kernels did not develop. That's going to go right to the chickens. That's not putting any more effort into. This one, I can feel through it. And it looks like we got some moderate development on these. You can see some of the kernels are small, but they are there. And again, we'll snap that tip off and throw that in the chicken calls bucket. And so it's an exciting night here at the Low Cash Homestead. I spend my Friday night shucking corn. My weekend is actually kind of like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and that's basically because Mrs. Low Cash Homestead will be gone all weekend. We're going to snap that off. It's not a whole lot on this ear, but what is there is pretty well developed. As far as, you know, the kernels that are there are in good shape. So we're going to keep that one. Mrs. Low Cash Homestead will be, is a nurse, and she will be pretty much gone for the next, well, she'll basically be, this one thing in, I can feel it. she'll basically be gone 16 hours at a time for the next, till Monday. So my weekends, and then the kids, I did homeschool for a while. That proved to be a little bit more than my capabilities with, running the homestead and the markets and schooling the kids, everything like that. But their school went to this 4-day-a-week thing, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, and it happens to coincide with the fact that my Mrs. Locash Homestead won't pretty much be around until Monday. So my weekends are usually more like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's like when I can actually get some stuff done. The exception is when I have some help coming over to do some of the bigger projects here. Then, I kind of make time. Okay, this one's about half developed. If you can see through the silks and some of the kernels are starting to pop off, that's a good sign that the cobs are drying out. But you can see it's kind of intermittent. But through the whole cob, about half of it is developed. That is worth keeping to me. And I'll hang that in those burlap bags to dry out. Got a big one here. I'm curious to see what's underneath this. And how well. It seems that most of the candy did pretty well as far as ear development goes. I know I got some Japanese hollis in there, which is like a white. Has a white appearance. And then the strawberry popcorn I just really didn't get a whole lot from. But here's another look at the candy cane. Let me pull some of the silkies off of it. Again, the candy cane popcorn seems to have pretty decent ear development. Break that tip off. I get that. Some of my older children are still up. So if you hear thumping in the background, that's them. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be just fine while I'm out here in the garage shucking popcorn. Plus, after this popcorn dries out, I'm pretty sure they're going to. Pretty sure they're going to want to eat it too. I'm not sure what that is, but okay. And so there's another one. Again, tip fill seems to be a problem I'm having. I don't know if that's the variety of the popcorn or if it's the methods on which that I didn't pollinate or didn't irrigate it or whatever, but I got a couple of bad kernels. We're going to pop those out. There we go. You see right here where I popped those kernels out just to keep that. Maybe you can't see it because I'm not using a webcam. I'm just using what's built into the Chromebook here. But here and here, we just pop those kernels out to keep them spoiling the whole cob. But overall, that's a decent cob. A little congested. Weather's changing. And it was actually sweater weather for the first time in a long time for about 2 hours this morning. It's got everybody out to school and everybody's off to their buses, except for the ones who can't take the bus because they're not old enough to ride the bus. Ended up having to put a sweater on. So this one also is about half developed, but we're going to keep it because the parts that are developed seem to be in pretty good shape. And I was afraid that I would fill my call bucket before I filled my keep bucket, and that seems to be the case. Like this one here is just soft. I can't feel a single kernel or anything, so that's immediately going to go into the call bucket. And I'll call this out to my birds. That one is no good. Neither is that one. So if you guys have questions or want to know anything else about some of the stuff that we're doing here at the Locash Homestead, feel free to ask. I don't have any moderators, so keep it friendly in the chat, please. Decent development, kind of halfway developed. There's some mold on that one. We're going to get rid of that. Good news is my birds will eat this stuff just like it is. I've tossed a couple cobs out to them before in the, testing. phase, I guess, which is what you would call. And they ate it all up, and it being popcorn didn't seem to matter to them. Even, now that's pretty poorly pollinated cob. You see this side has like almost no kernels, and this side has kernels. We're going to keep that one anyway. I can still dehydrate those kernels or dry those kernels out. You don't want to dehydrate them. They might pop, but still want to air dry those kernels. This feels like a really small cob in here. I doubt we're going to see much on this one. But I could be wrong. Very small kernels. Pretty poor ear there. But we're going to keep it. Get rid of that stuff. So right now I'm sitting at this little table, and the whole table is just covered. This one looks, oh, here we go. There we go. Now, see, this is a pretty nice one as well. We'll peel that off. We're going to snap that tip off, and then we'll snap the husk off, because you got to dry these out of their husk. But there's another one. Again, decent ear development. Tip fill seems to be a problem, and I don't know. I do a little more research and see if it's something I can do about that. Maybe I'm assuming that putting them on irrigation, of course, would help. And then one thing I'm looking at, and not just for corn, but for all of our crops, is a dosing system. Right now, what I've been doing is I've been using the time-release granular fertilizers that you put in the ground, and that's great. You got to redo it every now and then. Every couple of weeks, you got to put more out. And if it gets rained a lot, like we had this spring where it just rained nonstop, or if it gets super hot, you got to irrigate a little bit more, then you're kind of stripping some of that stuff. So we're looking at some dosing bottles that would allow me to put my fertilizers in the bottles and then feed them through the automated water system. So small kernels on this one, but it's a pretty full head. Of course, I'm going to break that tip off and throw that in there. All right. So how exciting is it to watch me shuck popcorn on a Friday night, right? I don't have much of a nightlife or anything. There is a nightlife, and if you go to town, there is some nightlife. I think we have 2 or 3 bars. Haven't been to any of them. But this is what I spend my days doing, and my nights, actually. Trying to teach the family and learn myself as well as how to do as much as I can by myself. That's a decent ear. I don't like this part, but it doesn't want to snap off. I'm going to set that aside to where I can cut it later. Okay, nothing in here. I can feel all of these are, there's no, you get the feeling through the husk, and you can a lot of times tell how much kernels are. So, okay, so we got through one bucket there, and we're going to start on the next one and start peeling these through. So, some of the live streams I was talking about, I was in earlier tonight. The big conversation was fall temperatures coming, and that people were finally starting to see some fall temperatures in their area. Well, we did a little bit too. So it's a half developed. I could feel that it wasn't fully developed, but enough for me to go ahead and crack it open. Oops. I threw that in the, that goes in the coal bucket. There we go. And I can keep this. We'll get a few kernels out of it. This one is small, but I can feels like there's some kernel development there. So, although the cob may not have, oh, yuck. Okay, that one's going right in the coal. Peel it open and it was mushy. So, All right. So I guess this is the husking part. Okay, we're getting rid of that guy. I guess this is the husking part, and I guess the shucking part is like when you actually run it through the machine. It pulls all the kernels off. But like I said, I don't have any of that equipment, so we're doing it all by hand. I do a lot of stuff by hand. I do have outdoor equipment. I don't have any big equipment. I don't have any. Yep, that one's ruined. I don't have any big tractors or anything like that. I just have a little 26 horsepower lawn tractor, and it's got a decent a range of attachments. Though we have a plow and we have wheel weights, so we have forward scraper, a forward snow shovel, and lawn sweeper and carts and things like that do make it easier. But I don't have a Kubota, and as much as I would love a Kubota, it's just not in the cards for us right now. Plus, our place is pretty small. And by that, I mean we don't have a whole lot of acreage. The acreage we do have has been more than enough of a challenge to maintain, cultivate, develop, and build the life that we're building out here. So part of that was bad, but part of it wasn't. So we're gonna keep the good parts, get rid of the bad parts, and again, like I said, I'll feed this stuff to the birds. I do have chick feed and grain. I try not to feed it to them too often. But all my birds are in tractors, so I can just move them around to where I want to go. We're going to get rid of that one. And I just move them around to what needs to be cleared out. Okay, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. We're going to set that one aside. It's got a couple of discolored, like really dark colored kernels. And I'm not sure exactly what that is. So we're going to snap this part off. And we're going to set that one aside. So if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, throw them in the chat window, and we'll see what we can do. Normally, when I do my lives, I usually do them like on Wednesdays. I don't do a whole lot of them. Simply time. But I figured this would be a good activity to do while I was talking to you guys. Okay, so this is underdeveloped. The kernels are underdeveloped. So I'm just going to put that in the coal. Okay. All right. So this one, the cob itself is only about halfway developed, and the kernels inside are about halfway developed, but the kernels are nice and plump. It's a very set of plump kernels there. So we're going to keep that. This one doesn't feel very good. Let's just try ripping it open here and see what we get. Yep, that one's no good. Now this one feels like the kernels, the cob feels solid. But it also feels like the kernels might be kind of small. So let's open it up and find out. Okay, so a few of the kernels are some of the kernels are small, but a lot of them are, on par with what I've been pulling out of this. This is that candy cane popcorn, what I've been pulling out of the candy cane popcorn stuff. So, it's okay. And again, we're going to break that bad tip off. The tip fill is not very solid, so we'll break that off and throw it in the chicken feed bucket. And here's another one And this one's got a lot of husk. Doesn't mean there's a lot of corn in there. Okay. Overall, this one's not bad. Let's snap the top off. Even if the tip's not filled out all the way, I just go ahead and snap it off. Because I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm just gonna, give it to the birds. So here we go, decent sized kernels on this one. In fact, some of them just started popping off, which means that the cob's starting to dry out. See, so that is your. Now, when I pulled it off, it still feels a little chewy, but there's your popcorn right there. So we'll keep those, and that one is no good. I can see right through the husk. And we'll start at the silky end. Oop, that's not the silky end. Get her open. This one is really tight. The husk is really tight on it. And let's see where we're going here. Okay, that's not developed enough for me to bother with. Feels like this one is like halfway. Got some kernels on it. But no, it's also nasty. So we're getting rid of that one. Let's see what we got here. So I mentioned before that I've only grown popcorn as a microgreen, and I've never grown it out before. Now I've grown sweet corn out, and it has been difficult with the deer population because they love to eat it. Now, they did eat some of this, but they didn't really get at it too much, and I'm actually attributing that to the fact that I have had a vacant spot. That's about half developed on what's good of it, but we're going to keep that. I had an empty homestead next to me. Was 18 acres that were completely empty. And by empty, I mean there was a building there, no one lived there. And so now someone moved in. That one's no good. Someone moved into that 18 acres next to me, and I'm attributing the lack of deer to there being somewhat of a population over there. That one is no good as well. And when I say it's no good, it means I open it up and the cob itself, there's something going on. Like if it's got mold on it, it's no good to me, even though, maybe I could wash that off, but I'm not going to mess with it. If it's got a corn worm in it, which, it's still corn, so, you expect that, then I automatically goes to no good. Or anything along those lines. So that one is out of about 3/4 of the cob, about 7/8 of it's developed. We got some down there where there's no kernel development, but we're going to go ahead and keep that. And, corn being a self-pollinating kind of thing, being both male and female, I'm trying to, and basically what I did is I just kind of went around and I shook the plants. That one's no good. Just grabbed them and kind of shook them a little bit. And I didn't plant like a huge amount of them. Maybe 50 or 100 plants. We're test batching it, growing it out for the first time and seeing what we're going to get out of it. And I was hoping that we get a little better than what we did, not only for our purposes of our own personal consumption, but also for marketability. Like, I got nothing. There's nothing here on this one. There's like a few kernels over there. What the birds don't eat, I'll just grind into the ground. And, that'll be a fertilizer base for us, or biomaterial, whatever. Same thing here. Pretty much nothing on that one. A few kernels popped off, but I think those are the few kernels that it had. This one's mushy. I can feel it through the cob, through the husk. This one is solid but lumpy, which means uneven development, most likely. Let's pull her open and see. And yep, that's exactly it. Uneven development, although it could be worse. But overall, now see, the kernels on these are just popping right off. So we'll have to dry it a bit, but I don't think, the way we're going to test this is we're basically going to hang it in those burlap bags. And then every now and then we're going to pull a few kernels off and see if they pop. And when we get to the point where they pop more than they don't, then we'll eat it. So for us, the way we do it is we eat, we sell, and then we eat again. So I like to eat as much of the stuff I produce as we can. And in some cases, there's not even anything left to sell. And what I mean by that is I have a big family. And so, if the kids want to snack out of the garden, I let them. I don't worry about it. Because I know that is food that I grew that's good food. Okay, so this one got some blank spots in it, but it's a keeper. That over there, my calling bucket's getting pretty full. Chickens will be happy. But then again, they're chickens, so they'll eat anything. Okay, so all right. We got pretty much nothing on this one. Yep, okay. Getting in a lot of these little small cobs. And again, I'm not disappointed if they don't turn out. This is my first year growing it out. So, and this is like really flexible and bendy. So there's no good kernels in there. And in fact, I don't think the cob is even really the ear itself is going to be worth much. So we just go ahead and chuck that one. Okay, I've seen a lot of this, and that is incomplete development. And in this case, it's pretty severe. We're just going to go ahead and call that one. So, ooh, crud. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. I really like Chromebooks, I gotta say, but their trackpads or their little touch pads are super, super sensitive. And being that I'm out in the garage, I didn't bring my mouse out or anything like that. I actually do use a mouse with these because I'm old and I don't use the touch pads. Kind of piss me off because they're super sensitive and I am heavy-handed. Smaller cob here. We're gonna set that one aside because I can't break this bad part off. So it's gonna have to be cut off. So we're gonna set that one aside. And I'll go back and cut. See, like this one, there's nothing in here. It's just mushy. So overall, we've gotten some decent popcorn out of here. Not as much as I wanted. But at the same time, we've also got animal feed. Similar here. We've seen this plenty. Incomplete pollination or incomplete development. So that is something that, again, we're going to work on improving next year's popcorn batch. Seems like that's not even worth doing anything with. So that's a mushy one. I'm not going to do anything there. And in fact, I'm going to have to add another coal bucket over here. And, when I was picking these, I was using that same icing bucket. Not the same icing bucket, but, the bucket you get from the bakery department at Wally World for $1 versus going into the hardware department and paying $3. And you get a free lid. So, works. I have a couple of things, lots of buckets around the homestead. Pretty bad development on that one. I got a feeling a lot of these smaller ones are going to be just, see, there we go. That one had a worm in it. I don't use pesticides and herbicides. So, some things suffer because of that. But until I can figure out all the ways of dealing with it, then I just deal with it without, it's a loss. Okay. Well, I've already got more seed than what I used to grow this. So that's still a win. Not much on that ear. Okay. So that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as, I failed at popcorn. I look at it as, well, I got more than I started with. And like I said, I didn't use drip tape or anything like that. So, I'm not feeling the hurt of the investment in it. That has a bad tip. We're going to break that off anyway. So it's not hurting me. I'm not doing anything. I'm not sad about it or anything. Although this is a pretty crappy cob here, but it does have usable kernels on it. So we will keep that. And that one's got a hole in the husk, which leads me to think that. Okay, so there's a bad section right there. And if you can't snap it off, if the corn don't snap, I just get rid of it. So I think a lot of these are going to be fertilizer or feed. If the ear is solid when I pick it up, then I take the time to unwrap it. But I usually poke my hand in there enough to kind of see what I got, like this ear right here. This is the candy cane popcorn again. The other varieties didn't seem to do nearly as well as this candy cane popcorn did. Nothing good there. These two are calls. You can tell that one's nothing solid in that ear. And from the top of this, it looks like we got some. Ooh. Keep dropping stuff. But it is late and I'm tired. It's 11:20 here on my neck of the woods. Okay, well, you guys get the idea. Partially developed, but I'm gonna pop a kernel off here. But that's a decent corn kernel, so we're gonna keep that. Here's a big one. Let's see. Let's see if we're surprised underneath here. Oh, so far so good. Yeah, there we go. A little bit less developed down here at this end. We have that tip fill problem. We've seen that a lot. Wow, I snapped that off. A whole bunch of kernels popped out. This one is pretty dry already. So, and I just got corn kernels all over my keypad, but this one's pretty dry already. I just raked my fingernail across it and the little kernels just popped right out. So, keep those. Okay. We're about 3/4 through our second bucket here. And yeah, nothing good there. Nothing good there. Nothing good there. If you pick the ear up and it's smushy, I don't bother to unwrap it. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna have to call this a night. I can hear my little ones in there. Well, of the little or bigger ones, and I can hear them in there having some kind of canoe. So we're gonna go ahead and stop for tonight. And I've only got a few ears left to do, but hopefully, it would have been great if every ear that I pulled out was like this one. Big, beautiful, and full of kernels. But unfortunately, they weren't. This is Matt with Little Cash Homestead. Thanks for checking us out. You guys have a good night.